Whatever happened to Snowflake and Safe Space? Remember those? Please be sure to subscribe if you're not already. Hit the like button. Let's go. They were Marvel characters that were announced to be part of a new relaunch of the New Warriors, and they never came out. That book never happened. Those characters never debuted, and yet I still see them on the thumbnails of, anti-SJW, anti-woke, Comicsgate, and so on. I see them on thumbnails to this day, new videos. I see them mentioned in Twitter threads, as like proof that woke Marvel or whatever. So we're going to take a look at whatever happened to Snowflake and Safe Space. And, all the while we'll be asking ourselves, why can't Chuds let this go? So first, let's look at a brief history of the New Warriors as a team in Marvel history. The New Warriors was a fictional superhero team appearing in comics published by Marvel. They traditionally consisted of teenage and young adult heroes and were often seen to serve as a junior counterpart to the Avengers in much the same way that the New Mutants and X-Force did with the X-Men. They made a cameo appearance in the Mighty Thor number 411 in 1989 and made their full debut in the Mighty Thor number 412. Over the years, the New Warriors in their various incarnations have been featured in 5 different volumes. Created by editor Tom DeFalco, who brought together existing Marvel characters Firestar, Marvel Boy, Namorita, Nova, and Speedball, and added the newly created Night Thrasher. Over time, the team was joined by Silhouette, Rage, Hindsight Lad, Bandit, Timeslip, Dagger, Darkhawk, Power Packs, Turbo, and the Scarlet Spider. The second real relaunch of the New Warriors was a 6-issue miniseries that had the superhero team cast as the stars of their own reality TV show. The New Warriors are at the center of a televised fight against a number of supervillains in Stamford, Connecticut, where the villain Nitro explodes and kills 612 people, including several members of the New Warriors. A lot of those people were children at a nearby school. This event in the comic books is what kicked off the Civil War event. In the MCU, it was Wanda Maximoff. She accidentally blew up a building when trying to stop Crossbones from blowing up Captain America. In the comics, it was this team of, reality TV show New Warriors that, went in guns blazing against some villains that were really, really over their pay grade. And then there were a couple of other attempts, a couple other volumes after that to start the New Warriors again with Night Thrasher. It didn't really take. They really were a team that mostly worked in the 90s. Night Thrasher was created as a 90s character who, rode a skateboard and so on. So he was very of the time. But then in March of 2020, an announcement was made that Marvel was bringing back the New Warriors, though it was going to be an all-new team. And fans got kind of upset about this. Not just anti-SJWs either. People on the left didn't like this, right? So there were a few different characters that were pretty lame. Maybe something could have been done with them to, make them more interesting if the comic had ever come out. But the two main ones that everybody zeroed in on and collectively cringed were Safe Space and Snowflake. These two new heroes were part of the team that themed around internet culture in the same way the 90s teams were extreme and the 2000s iteration was focused on reality television and the rise of influencer culture. Snowflake and Safe Space are two young heroes with cryokinesis and force field projection. The twins build themselves as post-ironic meditations on using violence to combat bullying. Some fans felt this was a mockery of earnestness or just an attempt to rile people up. So why did people get so upset? Snowflake and Safe Space were psychic twins, cryokinetic. Snowflake can materialize snowflake-shaped shuriken projectiles for throwing. Safe Space can materialize pink force fields, but he can't inhabit them himself. The reflex only works if he's protecting others. They're hyper-aware of modern culture and optics, and they see their superheroics as a post-ironic meditation on using violence to combat bullying. Snowflake and Safe Space, there was also screen time, and all of these are ideas that are built around, terms that get thrown around on the internet that they don't see as derogatory, right? So, several years ago, people on the right started really going in hard about, what was specifically an issue on college campuses, safe spaces, which really initially had more to do with autistic kids and people with sensitivity issues, having a place to retreat to whenever things were, too overwhelming or whatever. But of course, all these anti-SJW videos on YouTube started talking about that as this is what the left wants, is everybody to have a safe space, and safe spaces everywhere and stuff, because they just take the nuance out of anything and use it as the example as to why things, why the left is evil or bad or whatever. um, they don't really understand the things that they latch onto. They just use them as rhetorical tools. Snowflake also became a thing that people started using in 2015, 2016, as in like, oh, you're so special. You're such a special little snowflake and you deserve special attention and so on. It's derogatory. It's a thought terminating cliche, which I've done videos about. It's meant to just deflect criticism, basically. So yeah, on the internet, especially on the right, within this, culture war that anti-SJWs and, chuds generally like to pretend they're waging, these terms became derogatory. You use them against your enemies. And so the idea behind these characters, and I'm not defending these characters, the idea behind them, by the way, I'm just explaining to you what is said to be the idea behind them, that they would unironically wear these as a badge of honor, and it kind of would take the power out of using them as derogatory statements, right? Similar concept to how Black people have taken the N word and made it their word, so that like they use it. White people shouldn't use it. Nobody should use it, but they use it amongst themselves and so on. And that removes the power, the oppressive power that word has historically had. So I think that was kind of the idea behind this. Not to say that these words are anywhere, nearly as bad as like the N word, but I think that's generally the concept behind this. And I just, it was a bad idea. Marvel puts out a lot of ideas all the time. They've put out, ideas left and right for like 80 plus years. They can't all be zingers, right? But unfortunately, this was just such a massive misfire that not only the right was making fun of it, but the left, who theoretically would benefit from these words having, their oppressive power taken from them. Theoretically, the left would benefit from that. But no, the left didn't like it either, and with good reason. Because these characters were just such a mishmash of stereotypes and tropes about non-binary people, and what the left generally believes, and even mocking these concepts. And I understand that Daniel Kibblesmith, who was the writer who was going to work on this, I understand what his intention was. I just think it was a stupid idea. And because it was roundly rejected and mocked by both the left and the right, and because of COVID, this book never came out. This new Warriors book that was planned never launched. And Snowflake and SafeSpace were never seen in a published comic book. Never once. And it's been over 2 years now. And yet you still see anti-SJWs, Comicsgate, and so on, using them as the examples of, Marvel being so woke, it's cringe, and so on and so forth. If that's the best that they can do, is pull up a 2.5-year-old example that was never published and was also roundly rejected by the left too, if that's what they have to go to so frequently to put in their thumbnails and so on, I think that says a lot about the substance of their arguments and their points, meaning there is none. All they can do is rely on memes, visual cues of like, oh, remember how cringe this was? And, forget about the context that it never was published and that nobody wanted this shit, right? Doesn't matter. It's still proof to them. And in a large part, that's because a lot of the people who talk shit about this stuff don't actually know comics. So, whenever I've tried to challenge people like, hey, give me some examples of, some recent examples where, Marvel was doing cringe woke stuff or whatever, or pushing an agenda, they'll go, oh, Snowflake and SafeSpace. Like, really, dude? That's the best you can do? Anyway, I just wanted to bring this up because it popped into mind the other day. Somebody mentioned it on Twitter, and literally was this exchange that I just described. I was like, that's what you got? And I just felt like we needed to check in and see whatever happened to Snowflake and SafeSpace. I think it's pretty certain at this point that they will never be seen published in a comic, unless it's maybe years from now Marvel decides to make fun of itself in some way and does like a satire comic or something. Maybe they'll pop up like that, and that's fine. Otherwise, bad ideas, bad execution. It's best for everyone that it didn't happen. And, otherwise, Marvel is full of fantastic stories and characters. A lot of them are new. and I suggest checking some out. Be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment. Were you actually looking forward to Snowflake and Safe Space? Was this something that you would have want to see?